holding hostage the paltry $200 million it pledged to the Palestinian Authority. Why? For the crime of seeking Palestinian representation at the UN. But why shouldn't Palestine be represented at the UN if the Palestinian people so choose? They've broken no international laws, unlike Israel, which has committed genocide. Israel hasn't adhered to even basic conditions necessary for it to remain a member of the UN. As you're all aware, UN Resolution 149 clearly states that denying the right of return to Palestinian people is reason enough to end Israel's membership in the UN. The problems of economy, jobs, occupation, and war will not be solved by the Democrats or Republicans because they are unwilling and unable to see that the crisis of capitalist overproduction has reached a point of no significant return. In other words, the only moves left for them are austerity, which means repression, and sometimes austerity isn't enough and the desire grows to take a whole nation's sovereignty in order to take a nation, with war, in order to take an entire wealth of a nation. Like the war for the oil in Libya, with an eye towards more in northern Africa. The natural resources, the cheaper labor, the strategic positioning another country offers, all of these things are their motives for war and are absolutely irresistible during this global economic crisis of overproduction. However, it's becoming increasingly difficult for the U.S. to force its way in the world, even though it has powerful financial leverage of Wall Street banks, the IMF, the World Bank, to strike fear of economic collapse into those countries not in line with imperialist aims. Why? Because it's in a weakened state. That's why it's having a problem. The U.S. can't promise the same kind of investments as bribes. This is why the U.S. efforts at forcing a boycott of the non-aligned movement failed. This is why the U.S. was unable to get China, Russia, India, the ALBA bloc in Latin America, and even Pakistan and South Korea to stop buying Iranian petroleum products. Although Israel is a means to maintain U.S. corporate oil interests in the Middle East, its future as the flagship of Zionism doesn't look bright, given that Israel would not last a day without massive U.S. aid. I want to end with a quote from David Ben-Gurion, of all people, the first prime minister, Israeli prime minister, who said of the expelled Palestinians in 1948, quote, "The old will die and the young will forget." Did you all forget to forget?
No.
Last year, Palestinian refugees marked their expulsion by going to the border in the thousands, calling for their right of return. With this and many bold actions, Palestinians again inspired the Arab uprising. They showed that no matter what forces are arrayed against them, the Palestinian people will not abandon their right to return. That answers Ben-Gurion, as does the continued resistance. In spelling out the economic desperation in the West Bank, the LA Times yesterday seemed to welcome the idea of an Arab Spring whereby Palestinians would rise up and turn on each other. However, they seemed incapable of understanding that a real Arab Spring against occupation and imperialism has been going on since Ben-Gurion made that statement. It will not cease until return. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Long live the Intifada.